everybody, welcome to Top 10 Thursday on the Mana League. I'm John as always, and it's time for the Top 10 Uncommons in Battle for Zendikar Draft. This is going to be a little bit of interesting of a list, partly because a lot of these cards I haven't played with. I've played against them and I've seen how good they are, or I've watched matches where they've been played and I've seen how good they are. But some of them I haven't actually played yet as well, and I'll certainly hear about this in the comments. A number of uncommons that are really good might not make this list because of the multicolor requirement of them, or the requirement they be in a very specific deck. But without further ado, we're going to move right on to number 10. Number 10, we've got Royal Spout, a multicolored card, despite what I just said. Royal Spout I played with just yesterday in Wacky Wednesday. For those of you who didn't see it, who avoid Wacky Wednesdays, who avoid stipulation drafts or things like that, go watch it. It was a really good rare draft. I had to draft every rare that came by me, and I had to play every rare that I drafted. It was insane. It was an insane draft. Go watch it. Anyways, Royal Spout, so good. You obviously need to be blue-white for this to, be really playable. You could splash it, but I'm not a huge fan of splashing unless a card is broken, and this isn't broken, it's just pretty darn good. It's sorcery speed, but bouncing to the top of the library is still a solid effect, still an awesome tempo play, and the fact that it has Awaken means that hopefully you get to open yourself a gap for that land to get through, and that certainly happens a fair bit. I really like Royal Spout. It's not quite first pickable. I think you need to be blue-white and then take this. I don't think it's going to put you into blue-white, but it is still a solid card, enough to be number 10 and just make the list. Number 9, we've got Drana's Emissary, another multicolored card. Drana's Emissary, however, is just awesome. I haven't actually had a chance to play it myself, but I've played against it a couple of times. And it hurts. It hurts a lot, and I've seen people play it. It's so good. It's so good. If this comes down on turn 3, or turn 4, I can't remember which it is offhand, it just starts draining you every turn, every single turn. Plus it flies, and you may very well not have a flyer at that point to block it. It just gets so out of control. So out of control. I think it's even an ally. It's a really good card. You can kiss your game goodbye if this comes down early and you don't have a way to finish it off really quickly. Yeah, it's first pickable. It's one of the few gold cards that I would just absolutely first pick if there was a pretty bad rare. Such a solid card. Obviously you have to be black-white, but it's a reason to go into black-white for sure. But number 9, Drana's Emissary. At number 8, we've got Herald of Kozilek, another multicolored card. I guess there are actually a fair number of multicolored cards on this list. I haven't played this one either, or against it, but I've watched multiple games where it's been played, and boy do I ever want to play with it. Blue-red is just an incredible deck already. This just breaks it. This just makes it so much better. It's a 2/4 body for 3, which is already solid. That's going to block an awful lot of things. 4 toughness is pretty darn good. It's not 5 or 6, which, if you watched Wacky Wednesday yesterday, was a pretty big deal. But it's 4, and that's totally fine. And the fact that it makes probably the majority of your spells cheaper because you're in blue-red, which probably means you're going to have a lot of colorless creatures, a lot of colorless spells, etc. It's just so good. Your non-creature spells, your creature spells, just that one cheaper is so good. With Scions by this thing's side, you can pretty easily ramp into a Bane of Beleged, an Ulamog, a Breaker of Armies, just awesome things way too early. Way too early for most decks to compete with. Herald of Kozilek, love it. Can't wait to play with it myself. Don't want to play against it. But number 8, Herald of Kozilek. Number 7, we've got Tadru Wallcrawler, our first monocolored card, and it's green, which isn't necessarily one of the better colors in this format. I've played against this, and it sucks. It sucks so much to play against this. The opponent's entire team just suddenly becoming +2/+2 until end of turn, and then the threat of them becoming +2/+2 again and again, turn after turn after turn, if there's allies being produced, is really hard to handle. You need to kill this thing really fast, really fast. This, along with Resolute Blade Master and Lantern Scout, are the allies that I hate to see on the other side of the board. Luckily it's green, and green's a little bit harder to pull off a really good allies deck in. The natural colors are red-white. There is, of course, black allies, there are red or green allies, there's a couple of blue allies, but red-white's the way to go. So Tadru Wallcrawler you don't see as often in the broken allies deck. You have to be very careful to do that. But even in your typical green-red landfall deck or anything like that, it still can be just bonkers. You want to kill this thing and you want to kill it fast. What looked like a board stall or even a slightly stable game suddenly is just totally out of control and a total train wreck. So yeah, to Drew Wallcrawler, really, really, really good. Number 7 on my list. Number 6, we've got Ruination Guide. This card I have played with many times, and I love it. It's so good. This little creature is just awesome. Obviously, it's totally at home in blue-red. That's the best place for it, but it works perfectly well in blue-black. And it also still works in blue-white or blue-green, blue anything. The colorless bonus to creatures, the +1/+0, is really, really, really solid. You hopefully want to build around that. That's going to be the biggest value that this thing is going to give you. Making your scions into 2/1s, making them legitimate attackable threats is pretty solid. And it even has ingest on it. So if you feel comfortable attacking with this thing, you can ingest cards, which obviously in blue-black really, really helps, but also just helps with your blue processors. As well, don't forget, Awakened lands are colorless. So this makes your Awakened lands +1/+0 as well. So don't forget that. I've had to correct a number of people on that, and unfortunately let a number of people know that they're being attacked for more than they think they are. But yeah, Ruination Guide, super love this guy. Number 6 on my list. Number 5, we've got Vile Aggregate, another Devoid card. This one was pretty unassuming for a while. When I first looked at it, I figured, okay, that's fine, I guess. You're going to have some colorless creatures. This is going to be like a 2/5, maybe a 3/5. Big whoop. At worst, it's a 1/5 for 3, which is totally fine. 5 toughness is really solid. It's going to hold off the vast majority of the aggressive decks for a fairly long time, just by itself, just being there. Of course, in blue-red, this is going to very often be a 3/5 or a 4/5, with an infinitely high ceiling. This could be a 10/5. You probably should have won the game by that point, but it could be a 10/5. But so often this is going to be 2, 3, 4, maybe even a 5/5. It's got Trample, which is awesome because it makes it into a legitimate threat that it is going to still get in for damage even if they chump block. And nestled within all that reminders text and rules text and stuff that you think might be flavor text is the word ingest. It has ingest and trample, which is a really good combo, because if this gets through a single point of damage even, it's going to ingest a card, which is going to fuel your processors. And everybody should know this by now, but for anybody who was wondering if ingest process was actually going to work, which I strongly was in my set review, it works. It works really, really, really well. But yeah, Vile Aggregate, such a huge card. So good in blue-red colorless. Number 5 on my list for sure. Number 4 is a weird one. Stasis Snare. Why is it weird? Because I haven't played with it. I haven't played against it. I haven't seen anybody play it yet. For all intents and purposes, from my experience with Battle for Zendikar, this card doesn't exist. I've never, ever seen it in a playing Magic setting. I've opened it. I've, seen it in packs, but I've never seen this card hit the table on my side, my opponent's side, or anybody else's side sitting around me or as I've been walking around the store or anything. However, I've played with his effect. I've played with this effect a number of times. This is Banishing Light. This is Oblivion Ring. This is any other name this has had. This is Quarantine Field writ small. This is a really good effect. This is totally first pickable in a number of cases. The fact that it has flash makes it that much better. And I'm kind of happy I haven't seen this card. I would love to see it myself, but the fact that I haven't had to see it on the other side of the board or any of my opponents or potential future opponents is fantastic, because this card's just solid removal. Just so good. Number 4, the elusive, might not exist, Stasis Snare. Number 3, we have Coastal Discovery. I was downish on this card in the set review. This might make the list of the cards I was wrong about when I do that, probably in a month or so. I said this is an obnoxiously more expensive Divination. Divination is 2 in a blue, sorcery, draw 2 cards. This is 3 in a blue, sorcery, draw 2 cards. Why does it have to be more expensive? Just because it has Awaken on it. Well, the format's slower, so I think that's one of the big reasons it has to be more expensive. But it turns out that even a 4-mana Divination is still pretty fine. Divination's fine, 4-mana Divination, fine as well. Now, most of the decks that would want a 4-mana Divination are the decks that are going to go long enough that they're totally happy playing a 6-mana 4/4 that draws you 2 cards. And boy, is that good. That is such high value to make a 4/4 and draw 2 cards. Every deck I've ever had Coastal Discovery in, I have been super happy about. Ignore my text message in the background. Super happy about it. Ugh. It's such a good card. I've seen this card go late. I saw this card go second last pick, which I think was very wrong in that draft pod. I think people just really didn't understand how good it was. But this card's just so good. So super good. Number 3, Coastal Discovery. Number 2, we've got Grip of Desolation. Removal's good. It's just good. It's 6 mana. 2 of it's black. It's still good. It's still really good. We don't get Doom Blades. We don't get even Murderous Cuts really anymore. We get Grip of Desolation, which is really solid. A big part of that is the fact that it's instant speed. A big part of that is the fact that you get to hit a land as well as a creature. So generally it's kind of like 1.5 for 1. You're going to get a land which maybe if you're lucky it color screws them. Maybe they're behind on land and it really kind of hurts them. A lot of situations you're just going to hit a land. It's not going to be a big deal. Now, of course, sometimes you're going to hit an Awoken land. You're going to get 2 creatures for 1 spell, and that is just super solid. This is such a good card in this format. Probably not anywhere else. You know, anywhere else you have access to Murderous Cut and Doom Blade and etc. But in this format, this is just a super solid card. Probably first pickable if the rare is kind of weak. Number 2, Grip of Desolation. Finally, at number 1, I can just pack up and leave. You know what number 1 is. It's Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder is so good. So good. It's just broken. The fact that this used to be a common shows that they weren't that good at building draft formats way back in the Tempest days. This should never have been a common. Even at uncommon, it's pretty darn solid. There's very few rares I would ever take over this. There's very few cards I would take over Rolling Thunder. It's so good. It hits players, which I often talk about. I often talk about how important it is for burn to hit players. It hits creatures. It hits both if I want them to. It hits any number of creatures and or players if I want it to. There's just so much you can do with this card. It wipes boards. It flat out kills your opponent for 6, 7, 8 mana damage. For that much mana plus 2. Your opponent may think that they're safe and suddenly, nope, they're just dead. They're just dead. Such a good card. Don't ever pass this. Ever. 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 So that's going to wrap it up for my top 10 uncommons in Battle for Zendikar draft. Definitely let me know what's not on this list, what should have been on this list. I know there's a number of multicolored cards that are hovering at 11th and 12th and 13th place, but definitely let me know what you would have put in this list. Would you have had a different number 1, a different number 2? Let me know in the comments down below. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeek. That's L-E-E-K, like the card, not the vegetable. No, it's like the vegetable, not the card. What's wrong with me today? You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/TheManaLeek. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below. As I said, make use of that. As well, please like and subscribe to my videos so that you can see all the latest Crack-A-Pack Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Top 10 Thursdays, Spiky Saturdays, and all the other videos that pop up here and over there. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.